Politics as a Vocation by Max Weber. Quotes: Politics as a Vocation by Max Weber, delivered as a lecture in 1918, addresses the nature of politics, the responsibilities of political leadership, and the ethical complexities inherent to wielding power. Weber introduces his famous definition of the state as an entity claiming a monopoly on the legitimate use of force within a territory and explores the dynamics of authority, particularly his classification of legitimate domination into traditional, charismatic, and legal rational types. This work is particularly significant for its exploration of politics as a calling, urging leaders to commit to responsible action and moral integrity amidst the pragmatic demands of governance. Weber contrasts an ethic of ultimate ends with an ethic of responsibility, challenging leaders to balance their ideals with the realistic consequences of their actions, especially when facing the paradoxes of political life and the moral weight of decision-making. Quote 1. A state is a human community that, successfully, claims the monopoly of the legitimate use of physical force within a given territory. Weber defines the state as an entity that distinguishes itself by the exclusive right to use physical force within a specific territory. He explains that historically, many institutions have used violence, but modern states maintain a monopoly on its legitimate use. The state controls the use of force by permitting other institutions or individuals to exercise this power only to the extent that the state allows. This assertion about the state's unique claim to legitimate violence highlights the central role of force in the definition and maintenance of political order. Weber emphasizes that politics revolves around the distribution and control of power within this framework of legitimate violence. Quote 2. He who is active in politics strives for power either as a means in serving other aims, ideal or egoistic, or as power for power's sake. In this statement, Weber describes the motivations of individuals involved in politics. He suggests that political activity is often a quest for power, which can be pursued for various reasons, whether to achieve certain goals, which may be altruistic or self-serving, or simply for the enjoyment and prestige that power itself brings. The quote highlights the complexity of political motivations, where the pursuit of power might not only be instrumental in achieving larger objectives, but also driven by the inherent desire for domination or influence. This conception reflects Weber's broader view of politics as fundamentally linked to power dynamics. Quote 3. Like the political institutions historically preceding it, the state is a relation of men dominating men, a relation supported by means of legitimate, i.e., considered to be legitimate, violence. Weber presents the state as an institution built on relations of domination, where some individuals or groups hold power over others, and this domination is legitimized by the use of force. The concept of legitimate violence is crucial here, as it differentiates the state's power from mere coercion or arbitrary force. In this context, obedience is structured around the state's authority, which is seen as justified either by tradition, charisma, or legal rational grounds. This explanation underscores the importance of legitimacy in maintaining political order and authority within the state. Quote 4. First, the authority of the eternal yesterday, i.e., of the mores sanctified through the unimaginably ancient recognition and habitual orientation to conform. This is traditional domination exercised by the patriarch and the patrimonial prince of yore. Weber discusses the concept of traditional domination, where authority is derived from long-established customs and practices that have been followed for generations. This type of domination is rooted in the belief that what has always been should continue to be, and people obey because they are conditioned to respect the sanctity of tradition. He illustrates this with the example of patriarchs and patrimonial rulers, whose power is accepted because it aligns with deeply ingrained cultural expectations. This traditional form of authority contrasts with more modern forms based on legality or charisma. Quote 5. There is the authority of the extraordinary and personal gift of grace, charisma, the absolutely personal devotion and personal confidence in revelation, heroism, or other qualities of individual leadership. Weber introduces the concept of charismatic domination, which is based on the exceptional qualities of an individual leader. Unlike traditional or legal forms of authority, charisma depends on personal devotion to the leader, who is seen as having extraordinary abilities, such as a prophet, a war hero, or a political visionary. Followers obey not because of established norms or laws, but because they believe in the leader's unique and almost divine qualities. This form of leadership can inspire strong loyalty and lead to significant social change, as people are drawn to the personal magnetism of the leader. Quote 6. Organized domination, which calls for continuous administration, requires that human conduct be conditioned to obedience towards those masters who claim to be the bearers of legitimate power. Weber emphasizes that political domination must be structured and maintained through continuous administration. To achieve this, the state must ensure that individuals are conditioned to obey those who hold power. This obedience is not only a matter of coercion but also depends on the belief in the legitimacy of the rulers. The state's administrative apparatus must control the material means necessary to enforce this domination, such as resources and military force. This explanation shows how the state's authority is sustained through organized systems of governance and obedience. Quote 7. There are two ways of making politics one's vocation. Either one lives for politics, or one lives off politics. Weber contrasts two different approaches to political life. Living for politics means dedicating oneself to the cause or ideals that politics represents, finding personal fulfillment in serving a greater good or cause. On the other hand, living off politics refers to using political engagement as a means of personal economic gain or survival. Although these two approaches are not mutually exclusive, Weber highlights the distinction between those who see politics as a calling and those who treat it as a profession or source of livelihood. This reflects Weber's broader inquiry into the ethics and motivations of politicians. Quote 8. The leadership of a state or of a party by men who live exclusively for politics and not off politics means necessarily a plutocratic recruitment of the leading political strata. Here, Weber argues that when political leaders derive their income from sources other than politics, such as personal wealth, this leads to a form of plutocracy, where political power is concentrated among the wealthy. He notes that such leaders are often economically independent, which means they do not need to rely on politics for their livelihood. However, this system can result in the exclusion of those without wealth from political leadership. Weber's critique suggests that economic independence may grant leaders the freedom to pursue politics as a vocation rather than for material gain, but it also perpetuates class disparities in political participation. Quote 9. The development of politics into an organization which demanded training in the struggle for power, and in the methods of this struggle as developed by modern party policies, determined the separation of public functionaries into two categories. Weber explains the transformation of political organization, where power struggles and the rise of party systems necessitated a clear distinction between administrative and political officials. Administrative officials manage the state's day-to-day functions, while political officials engage in power struggles, representing the government's policies and ensuring the maintenance of order. This division reflects the increasing specialization in political functions as politics became more structured and organized. Political officials can be dismissed based on shifts in power, while administrative officials often remain in their roles, symbolizing the bureaucratic stability needed to govern effectively. Quote 10. We have seen that in the past, professional politicians developed through the struggle of the princes with the estates, and that they served the princes. Weber traces the origin of professional politicians to the historical conflicts between princes and the estates. These politicians, who were often drawn from outside the traditional ruling classes, played a vital role in supporting the prince's attempts to consolidate power. This marks the beginning of a class of individuals who devoted their lives to politics, not through inheritance or aristocratic birth, but through service to the ruling authorities. The rise of professional politicians signaled a shift in governance, where the control of political power began to depend more on expertise and allegiance to the ruler than on noble status. Quote 11. A fifth stratum, the university-trained jurist, is peculiar to the Occident, especially to the European continent, and has been of decisive significance for the continent's whole political structure. Here, Weber emphasizes the unique and crucial role of jurists in shaping the political structures of Europe. Unlike other parts of the world, where legal systems may have been intertwined with theological or customary laws, European political development was significantly influenced by jurists trained in Roman law. These individuals brought a rational legal framework to state administration, which played a key role in the development of modern legal systems and bureaucratic governance. This professional class of jurists became instrumental in both political reforms and the rise of the absolutist state, showcasing the relationship between legal expertise and political power in Europe. Quote 12. The significance of the lawyer in Occidental politics since the rise of parties is not accidental. The management of politics through parties simply means management through interest groups. Weber asserts that the prominent role of lawyers in modern politics is tied to the nature of party politics, which revolves around managing the interests of various groups. Lawyers, trained in advocating for different sides and building strong arguments, are particularly well suited for this type of political system. As party politics became more about representing and balancing competing interests, lawyers, with their skills in negotiation and persuasion, became increasingly influential in shaping political discourse and outcomes. This reflects how the structure of modern democracy has created a natural space for legal professionals to thrive in political leadership. Quote 13. It is decisive that this whole apparatus of people, characteristically called a machine in Anglo-Saxon countries, or rather those who direct the machine, keep the members of the parliament in check. Weber describes the rise of political machines, particularly in Anglo-Saxon democracies, where party organizations became powerful entities controlling political activity. These machines, run by a few key individuals, wield significant influence over parliamentary members and can impose their will on the political process. This system represents the shift toward plebiscitarian democracy, where the real power lies not just with elected representatives, but with the leaders of the political apparatus who organize and direct the party. The political machine becomes essential in mobilizing the masses, selecting party leaders, and ensuring the unity and discipline of the party's operations. Quote 14. The honor of the civil servant is vested in his ability to execute conscientiously the order of the superior authorities, exactly as if the order agreed with his own conviction. Weber highlights the principle of bureaucratic duty, where the civil servant's honor lies in their ability to faithfully execute the directives of their superiors, even if they personally disagree with them. This moral discipline ensures the smooth functioning of the administrative apparatus, as civil servants are expected to remain impartial and focused on their role within the larger system of governance. This contrasts with the politician, whose responsibility is personal and tied to their decisions and actions. Weber's distinction between the civil servant's impersonal loyalty and the politician's personal accountability underscores the different ethical frameworks guiding these roles. Quote 15. Since the time of the constitutional state, and definitely since democracy has been established, the demagogue has been the typical political leader in the Occident. Weber traces the evolution of political leadership in democratic societies, where the demagogue, a leader who appeals directly to the people through persuasive rhetoric, has become the dominant figure. In contrast to earlier forms of political leadership, which may have been based on hereditary status or bureaucratic appointment, the modern demagogue derives power from their ability to sway public opinion and mobilize support. This shift reflects the increasing role of mass communication and popular appeal in democratic politics, where leaders must engage directly with the electorate to maintain power. Quote 16. The charismatic element of all leadership is at work in the party system. Weber emphasizes the importance of charisma in political leadership, particularly within party systems. Charismatic leadership inspires personal loyalty and devotion from followers, who are often drawn not merely to the party's program, but to the leader's personality. This loyalty can surpass loyalty to party policies, with followers finding satisfaction in working for a dynamic leader rather than for abstract party ideals. Charisma can play a pivotal role in the leader's success, especially in mobilizing support and uniting followers, thus demonstrating how personal influence can shape political movements. Quote 17. The boss is a political capitalist entrepreneur who, on his own account and at his own risk, provides votes. Weber describes the political boss as a key figure in the party machine, particularly in American politics. The boss operates as a behind-the-scenes manipulator, controlling votes and political appointments in exchange for financial contributions and influence. He is not typically motivated by ideology, but by the pursuit of power and profit. Unlike public political figures, the boss works discreetly, often avoiding public office, but playing a crucial role in shaping political outcomes by managing party operations and controlling patronage. This system highlights the commercialization of politics, where financial interests and personal networks can dictate political control. Quote 18. The career of politics grants a feeling of power. The knowledge of influencing men, of participating in power over them, and above all, the feeling of holding in one's hands a nerve fiber of historically important events can elevate the professional politician above everyday routine. Weber illustrates the allure of a political career, where the sense of power and influence over others becomes a significant reward. The ability to shape history and participate in important events provides politicians with a sense of purpose and elevation beyond the mundane aspects of life. This power is not only a matter of prestige, but also a deep source of personal fulfillment, as politicians engage with critical decisions and wield influence in shaping the course of society. The emotional satisfaction derived from this power becomes a driving force for those dedicated to political life. Quote 19. Passion in the sense of matter-of-factness, of passionate devotion to a cause, to the god or demon who is its overlord. Weber highlights that true political passion is not a mere emotional outburst, but a deep, devoted commitment to a cause. This passion fuels a politician's actions, giving them purpose and direction. A politician must be driven by a sense of duty or allegiance to a cause, whether that be an ideology, a nation, or a belief system. This passion goes beyond superficial excitement and is characterized by dedication to something larger than oneself. Weber stresses that this kind of passion is crucial for politicians to maintain focus and integrity in their work, as it sustains them through challenges and obstacles. Quote 20. For ultimately, there are only two kinds of deadly sins in the field of politics: lack of objectivity and, often but not always identical with it, irresponsibility. Weber outlines two fundamental failings that can undermine a politician's success: a lack of objectivity and irresponsibility. Objectivity is crucial in political decision-making because it allows politicians to act in the best interest of their cause or constituency, rather than for personal gain. Irresponsibility, on the other hand, manifests when a politician neglects the consequences of their actions, focusing instead on short-term gains or personal satisfaction. Both sins can lead to political failure, as they compromise the integrity and effectiveness of leadership. Weber implies that these are common pitfalls that political leaders must be vigilant to avoid. Quote 21. The strength of a political personality means, in the first place, the possession of these qualities of passion, responsibility, and proportion. Weber defines the qualities that make a strong political leader: passion, responsibility, and proportion. Passion drives a leader to commit fully to their cause. Responsibility ensures that their actions are aligned with the greater good, and a sense of proportion helps them maintain a balanced perspective in the face of challenges. These qualities are essential for any politician who seeks to influence and lead effectively, as they provide the foundation for sound decision-making and ethical leadership. Without these attributes, a politician risks being driven by personal ambition or losing sight of their broader responsibilities. Quote 22. The demagogue is compelled to count upon effect. He is constantly in danger of becoming an actor, as well as taking lightly the responsibility for the outcome of his actions, and of being concerned merely with the impression he makes. Weber points out the challenges demagogues face in politics, where they are driven to seek immediate effects and impressions. This often results in their actions becoming performative, as they focus on how they are perceived rather than the long-term consequences of their decisions. The demagogue risks prioritizing personal image over the actual outcomes of their policies, which can lead to a superficial grasp of power and a lack of genuine responsibility. This tendency toward self-reflection in power ultimately weakens their political effectiveness and reveals a deeper irresponsibility in their leadership. Quote 23. The final result of political action often, even regularly, stands in completely inadequate and often even paradoxical relation to its original meaning. Weber highlights the unpredictable and often contradictory nature of political outcomes, which rarely align perfectly with the intentions behind them. This unpredictability underscores the tragic dimension of politics, where the consequences of actions frequently diverge from their original aims. Political leaders must confront this reality, as the complexities of human affairs and the unintended ramifications of decisions can undermine even the best-laid plans. For Weber, this aspect of politics reflects the inherent uncertainty and paradox within historical processes, where causes and effects are not always directly related. Quote 24. We must be clear about the fact that all ethically oriented conduct may be guided by one of two fundamentally differing and irreconcilably opposed maxims. Conduct can be oriented to an ethic of ultimate ends or to an ethic of responsibility. Weber distinguishes between two ethical frameworks in politics: the ethic of ultimate ends and the ethic of responsibility. The ethic of ultimate ends prioritizes acting according to moral convictions without regard for the consequences, while the ethic of responsibility emphasizes the importance of considering the outcomes of one's actions. These two approaches often conflict, as those driven by ultimate ideals may overlook the practical effects of their decisions, while those who focus on responsibility must sometimes compromise their ideals for the sake of achieving practical results. Weber presents this tension as a central dilemma in political ethics, where leaders must navigate the balance between idealism and pragmatism. Quote 25. No ethics in the world can dodge the fact that in numerous instances the attainment of good ends is bound to the fact that one must be willing to pay the price of using morally dubious means, or at least dangerous ones. Weber asserts that politics frequently requires the use of morally questionable methods to achieve worthwhile goals. This reality creates a fundamental ethical challenge, as political leaders must grapple with the fact that good outcomes may necessitate actions that, in themselves, are ethically problematic. The tension between means and ends is a persistent issue in political life, where decisions often involve weighing the potential for harm against the greater good. For Weber, this ethical complexity is unavoidable in politics, and those who wish to engage in it must be prepared to face such moral paradoxes. Quote 26. Whosoever contracts with violent means for whatever ends, and every politician does, is exposed to its specific consequences. Weber acknowledges that violence, as a means of political action, carries its own unique consequences that politicians cannot escape. Political leaders who use force to achieve their goals must accept the ethical and practical burdens that come with it. Violence can lead to unforeseen outcomes, including the degeneration of followers into mere seekers of power and spoils, and the gradual erosion of the original ideals that justified the use of force. For Weber, the use of violence in politics is fraught with ethical dilemmas, as it often brings about results that may contradict the intended objectives and moral considerations. Quote 27. Politics is a strong and slow boring of hard boards. It takes both passion and perspective. Weber describes the arduous nature of politics, likening it to the slow and difficult task of boring through hard boards. This metaphor emphasizes the need for perseverance, dedication, and a long-term perspective in political life. Success in politics requires both passion, which drives leaders to persist in the face of challenges, and perspective, which allows them to remain focused on the broader goals. Weber's insight reflects his belief that politics is not a pursuit for the impatient or faint-hearted, but demands steady effort and the ability to endure setbacks while maintaining a vision for the future. Politics as a Vocation, by Max Weber, concludes with a profound reflection on the tension between moral conviction and pragmatic governance. Weber emphasizes that true political leaders must possess a cool sense of proportion, balancing passion for their ideals with accountability for the impact of their actions. By highlighting the virtues of perseverance and responsibility, he underscores that the essence of political leadership is not in achieving flawless outcomes, but in having the fortitude to continue striving despite inevitable setbacks. Weber's enduring message calls upon leaders to remain committed to their cause with resilience, embodying both the strength and the ethics essential for navigating the demands of public life.
Curious to dive into the mind of Max Weber? With StudyLab Pro's book GPT, it's possible. Ask questions, explore themes, and discover the depths of politics as a vocation in an entirely new way. Start your conversation now by clicking on our logo. And if you're hungry for more educational content, subscribe to our channel to keep discovering, learning, and growing. Want more than just videos? Click on our logo now to join us on our platform for multiple choice tests, in-depth content, and tools to help you ace your studies. Get started now.